Got a little shout out to a friend of the program, Evan Miyakawa, owner of evanmia.com, our favorite analytics site, Sleepers Media's preferred analytics of choice. Evan Mia has got Jayden Quaintance, Kentucky transfer center, projected lottery pick in next season's draft, as the number one rated defensive player in the transfer portal. And KSR sort of aggregated a quote from Evan Mia here. The quote was, I think he could be one of the most disruptive defenders in the entire country next year, potentially an All American when it comes to defense. Jayden Quaintance is now on campus at Kentucky. He is getting into his rehab right now, trying to get healthy for the start of next season. But I'll be honest with you, I think I am more skeptical of Jayden Quaintance than just about anybody. Anytime his name comes up, I see the upside for sure, but I just haven't viewed him as this type of player. I haven't viewed him as the number one defensive player in the transfer portal. Am I asleep on Jayden Quaintance? Do you view him as the number one defensive transfer this season?
I see him as up there for sure. Like the defensive tape is really impressive, especially when you consider he was at Arizona State, which like to be fair, it's kind of on you for going to Arizona State in the first place. But when it comes to like your skepticism, I get it. My skepticism with Quaintance is more so on the offensive end, just because like he was billed coming in, and we all knew he was young, like the youngest player in his class, wasn't even eligible for the draft this year. So I do want to like, I don't want to be too harsh on him for how he performed on that end of the floor. I guess I just expected to see a little bit more of the skill translate, like when he got to Arizona State, than ended up working out. Like his jumper didn't look good. Like the sell on Quaintance long term was like, he's this explosive, angry dunker who, like, when he's around the basket, it's just like get out of the way because he's gonna punch on you. But that's not all there is to him. He also can pass a little bit. He can handle a little bit. The jumper's projectable, and I would say the flashes of that were few and far between at Arizona State. But the defensive stuff really pops for me. Like, I just think he can guard pretty much every type of player. Like if he gets switched onto a guard, he's good at shadowing smaller players and he can get into a stance. Like that's one of the most impressive things about him is that at his size, his pedigree or whatever, like that dude is always in a defensive stance, good hips, he's fleet of foot, blocks shots like with a ton of authority, very emphatic shot blocker in that sense. And I would even say like as a post defender, anytime like a big tries to post him up, like he's stuck to him. Like they can't really create separation on him because I mean the physical tools are there, but so is the athleticism, the agility. Fights well through screens as well. Like everything he does, like he can close out and block a 3-point attempt. I just think like when you look at how bad that team was last year and you still had these insane defensive possessions and flashes from Quaintance and he didn't even mail it in like before the injury, like I think that speaks so favorably to what he should be under Mark Pope if he gets healthy. Like I think he really can be a game-changing defender. And I'm struggling like thinking off the top of my head just who I would say is like a better defender in the transfer portal. Maybe Mo Diabate if you want to go that route and go with another Kentucky player. Maybe you pick a Daymara for the shot blocking, but yeah, I think he's got to be up there.
Okay, so I did get into like a deeper film dive on Quaintance. Maybe it's just lack of familiarity from me, honestly. Maybe that's what's driving my skepticism. I'll sit here and say that into the camera. Not proud of it. Maybe I just need to watch more and I'll become a bigger believer in JQ. I did this last night, knowing that we were going to talk about this. I finally was like, let me find as much defensive footage of JQ as I can find. He's awesome. I see it. I see it now. I do think there's a world where Evan Mia's model is correct here, and he becomes basically the best shot blocker in the country. I think he showed that at times, going back through the game logs, like pre his injury. I mean, he came right in as a reclass freshman. His first game had 6 blocks in 19 minutes. How many guys in the sport can do that? So, and from what I've seen just from the film I watched last night too, it seems like there's a mix of like highlight reel blocks, and then there's a mix of just like how did he do that? Weak side recovery plays.
Hmm.
I like your point that he can guard multiple positions, so I'm in on what he's capable of if fully healthy. Now, to play devil's advocate and do the skeptical host thing that I always do, um, are we positive? You know how people like to do the Mark Pope perfect system thing? It becomes a
Hmm.
running joke for us that like every player offensively would be a perfect fit in the Mark Pope system because it's a great
Right.
system. Are we sure that the Mark Pope defensive system will ever have the number one defender in the country in it? This video is brought to you by NBA2KLab.com. 2K Lab worked with us last summer as well, and they're one of our favorite entities in all of sports gaming. We want to show you their college basketball stadium locator challenge game, and I'm going to share a screen right now as we do this. South Carolina, bang. Oh,
Ooh,
okay, that's pretty good. Next, North Carolina. Why are we only getting the Carolinas?
please
Bang.
lock in.
St. John's, that's New
New
York.
York.
Bang.
Where's New Jersey?
We're on fire. Colorado. I actually don't know what state Colorado is.
It's it's in Colorado. There's a state of
Is that
Colorado.
this one?
It's to the right of Phoenix.
Anyway, you get the picture. This game's really fun. They've got more games as well, like Guess the NBA Player, Mystery Fantasy Draft, and more. Stay tuned for all of the college football content and games that they'll be putting together to help you get the best experience out of college football 26. Back to the video.
I think that's a good point, Greg. I would say like when you look at like the positive optimistic side of things is like being on a team that should be top 10 for the whole season where you have like some proper hoopers around you where it's not Bashir. I almost mixed up Bashir. Uh, what are their names? Bashir Jihad and Austin Mason. I almost said Bashir Mason. Let's just say Bashir Mason. Like
Yeah,
they're
that's fine. You can lump them in.
yeah,
They're basically
yeah.
one guy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If like you don't have BJ Freeman and Austin Mason running your offense anymore, you actually have like a legit system where you're seeing your teammates shine, you're seeing the ball go through the basket, you're probably getting easier looks as well. Like he gets a couple more touches on offense, like he's all of a sudden energized to try even harder on defense, you know? Like he's not having to sit there and be frustrated at Austin Mason or BJ Freeman dribbling the air out of the ball. Like instead, he's in a movement and honestly player movement, ball movement heavy scheme on offense that I think should only like just benefit him toward the mental side of the game. Is like, okay, I gotta be locked in. Like I'm feeling good. I'm gonna defend even better than I normally would. You know, like that's the type of like a rising tide lifts all ships kind of system that I think Pope has on offense that theoretically I could see bringing the best out of Quaintance on that end, even if I'm not like, oh yeah, defensive genius Mark Pope is going to completely maximize him. He might not have to because Quaintance already has all the physical tools and the like all the attributes you would want for a high level defender.
Yeah, I'll just add to this. Like, I don't mean to say Mark Pope can't coach defense. And I also think, in general, individual defensive players transcend whatever a coach's scheme or capabilities are defensively. You can be an elite defensive coach. Mick Cronin is one of those. Mark Pope is not, and that's fine. My favorite head coach at my program ever was John Beeline. Not a good defensive coach. He was an offensive guru, much like Mark Pope is. John Beeline had multiple years of top five defenses late in his career, largely because he started recruiting really good defensive prospects. Charles
Mm-hmm.
Matthews, a guy
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky fans are familiar with, Xavier Simpson, John Teskey. Those guys were just great defenders. And I think that can transcend how much focus or how much coaching there really is. Quaintance might be that. Quaintance as a shot blocker definitely is good enough to just block shots anywhere. I would just point out, I have some numbers behind this. So Amari Williams was also an elite shot blocker. Amari Williams had 3 consecutive seasons in the 30s nationally in block rate. He was 32nd as a sophomore at Drexel, 38th as a junior, 39th as a senior. He was 116th nationally at Kentucky. His block rate took a dip in his 1 year at Kentucky. Just going through Mark Pope's seasons in general, I mean, we can always almost point out that his offenses are usually typically a lot better than his defenses, but schematically, he's only had 2 seasons with a block rate inside the top 100. He's never had a season with a block rate inside the top 50. So I think it's fair to say, essentially, Mark Pope's never coached an elite shot blocker. And Amari Williams is probably the closest thing to it. And last year's Kentucky team was fine in terms of rim protection. They were not a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do get to the point next season where Evan Mia is correct here, and Jayden Quaintance is basically the most impactful defender in the sport, I'd be pretty surprised because number one, that would feel new to Mark Pope, and number two, it would probably mean Kentucky is a top three team in the country. If you have the best rim protector in the sport around a Mark Pope offense, that would be just a deadly combination.
I think it's a fair point. Just when you look at Pope's history and everything, I would just say to like push back to the pushback, like I think Amari Williams will play in the NBA. Don't know if he'll get drafted, but he feels like a at least a summer league guy who gets plenty of opportunity. Quaintance is just a different level of athlete. He's a different caliber of defender, a different level of prospect to where maybe this is the guy who like breaks through for Pope, and Pope, you start to see those numbers change, and it doesn't even necessarily require a philosophical shift on his end. It's just like letting JQ be JQ, to so to speak. But like that being said, I think it is a fair critique to say like, hey, we haven't really seen Pope do this at any of his stops before. We've never really seen him have like a defensive anchor to where it's like you watch a Mark Pope team and think, oh, he's got the best defender in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we just need CMP to let JQ be JQ and then everything works out.